All right, welcome to the last day of school. Friday, we're going to have what are called consultation days. It's not really a real lecture. I'm going to be here just to answer any questions that you have about the final, about your capstone essay. If you want me to proofread it for you or something, I will be here, but you do not need to be here. There's no topic scheduled. We have one last homework assignment, and that last homework assignment is called four-coloring. And this is kind of a fun theory in computer science and math, which is the notion that you can colorize any sort of regular map using just four colors. So you can see here you got Colorado and Wyoming, and they're different colors touching each other. Vermont and New Hampshire, different colors. There are no states on this map that have the same color that are adjacent to each other. You can do this for any regular map. It doesn't work if you have something weird like one state enclosing another state, and that state is broken into multiple parts, like Hawaii. You know, like there's not all maps are regular. You know, but for any kind of regular map, yeah, you can colorize any map with just four colors. And what's cool about this is that this is actually one of the first proofs that were done by computer. So computers were actually used to make the four-color theorem proof. So to celebrate that, you are given this homework assignment. So you have to come over here and click on that link here. Wait for it to load. There we go. And it's timed, but like the time doesn't matter for your grade, so it's all right. But still, if you want to do it until you get a high star, count, that's fine too. This thing's running so slow right now. There you go. So it'll generate a random map, and then it's your job to colorize it. So, for example, this spot here has to be red because it's touching yellow, green, and purple. So it's impossible for this to be any color other than red. This one here has to be green because this region here is touching the red, orange, yellow, and purple. This one's touching yellow, purple, red, so this one has to be green also. This one's touching purple, green, and yellow, so it has to be red. This one has to be yellow. This one has to be red. This one has to be red. Yellow. And so you just kind of go through the map like that. And you should be able to do it fairly quickly. Although it can be tricky. It can. And so like if it takes you a while to do it, like don't get too frustrated. Once you get it finished, screenshot it, attach it on Canvas. It's 10 points. It's computational thinking. So that's a category there's not a whole lot of points in. It's the same category as like doing the Python assignments and the Scratch assignments. So make sure you do that because that's going to be worth a lot. Also, if you enjoyed this whole critical thinking thing, there is a book that will kind of like hurt your brain in a good way. I think it'll tell you if you get a wrong color. Yeah. Reminds you of Minesweeper. Yeah, it's a similar kind of puzzle kind of game. So this book is called Labyrinths of Reason by William Poundstone. I read this when I was in 4th grade, and it made a huge difference on my life. I think it was 11. No, maybe it was like 6th grade. Yeah. Okay. So somewhere around there. And so it talks about things like, well, what if the color green and the color blue switch tomorrow? Would you be able to tell? Like if every instance of red and green switched or blue and green switched, would you be able to tell? And there's notions of like infinity. What if you have a heap and you take out one grain at a time? When does it not become a heap anymore? So there's a lot of like really interesting puzzles and questions that are discussed in this book. I would recommend it. The Chinese room problem that we were talking about last time is in this book. Newcomb's paradox, can you predict the future? This kind of stuff is all in the book. And I would recommend it. Like if you enjoy this kind of stuff, there's a lot of just really good, things that'll just hurt your brain, in a good way to study. You're reading Percy Jackson back then. I mean, I read, that was before Percy Jackson came out, but I was reading like C.S. Lewis, during that time period. But I just happened to come across that book, and I just started reading. I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. It's not a hard read, but like all the things in it, like you're seeing, they're like, oh man, can you predict the future? And you have to sit there and just really think about it. And it's a good exercise for kids or for college students or whoever to really think about these issues deeply. It's good for your brain. Okay. So your final is going to go live in about 2 hours. The final is 32 questions long, so it's actually going to be shorter than the practice finals that you have up on Canvas. The practice finals, I've posted 4 of them, so you can get plenty of practice on the finals prior to taking the actual real final. And have you always been a big reader? Yeah. I have piles and piles of books around this house. Like what are some other good books around here? Cyber Spies, like if you're into cryptography and things like that. Talks about like Huawei. It's also a good book. Cyber Spies, like nonfiction, talking about how computers can be used in espionage. Yeah, I got recommendations for days if you're interested in that kind of stuff. So the final for this semester, I went a little bit overboard on it. I made a question bank for it. So basically, the final will be pulling questions out of a question bank, so that if somebody were to like screenshot their final and send it to somebody else, it won't be very helpful, and in fact might be harmful, because I made a lot of the randomized questions very, very close to another one. So if you just kind of like glance at it and aren't intelligent enough to see the difference in the question, then you will copy a wrong answer from your friends. I've also run all the questions through ChatGPT to find out which questions it struggles with and gives wrong answers for. And so I would revise my questions until I had questions that ChatGPT would struggle with. So if you try using ChatGPT on this final, you are probably not going to get a good score. You might get some of them right. Who knows? ChatGPT is a bit random at times, but I deliberately ran all of the questions through this for that reason. So the final that you guys have here, using ChatGPT and similar tools and talking to other people is strictly prohibited. But you are free to use your own notes. You're free to use my PowerPoints. You are free to Google up things. In fact, 2 of the questions on this final, you will have to Google the answers for, presumably, unless you're like a fan of Pink Floyd. You would probably not know the answer to it. So, 32 points. You have 3 hours to do it. The average time on one of my tests is about 45 minutes. And so I took that and just like gave lots of extra time on top of it. A few of them are marked as unlisted. I can fix that for you. I'll do that when I get a chance. And so there's plenty of time on the test. I don't want you to have infinite time, because then you're just going to spend infinite time doing it, and I don't want that. So 3 hours though is plenty for this test. It should take a quarter of that amount of time. So. And like I said, there's a randomized pool of questions on it. It will go live today at noon, and then it will hard close at midnight on Thursday. Do not start the test like a friend of mine did, 20 minutes before the final ends, because thinking that you're going to get a full 3 hours. You don't. It closes at midnight, so don't start any later than 9 p.m. on Thursday. And I would recommend not waiting that long, because if you get distracted or something, and start watching, you know, a TV show, and you look up, you're like, oh, it's 11:30. I've got 11. I got 30 minutes to do the final. You're gonna be sad. So, final spring 2023. Okay, cool. All right, so speed run the final. You could, like, in half an hour. It's probably doable. Not all of the topics are the same every semester. Like I said, I mix up this class every semester. And so, like, in previous years, I've talked about, like, the housing crisis and things like that. So if there's something like that we didn't talk about, don't stress out over it. I went and counted roughly. It's hard to say exactly how many you'll get, but it's going to be somewhere on this order so that you know what to prep for. So 2 questions on ethical systems. Sample final is just practice. Yes, that's why it's called a sample final. You do not have to do any of the sample finals. You can. Doesn't count for your grade. None of the sample finals will make any difference on your grade. You'll get points, but the points are in a grade category that's weighted at 0. So they don't do anything. And you can retake them as much as you want. Are you going to offer the thing where if you get it all wrong, we get 100%? No, because I had, like, several students think that they had to get them all wrong and then didn't, and it was a giant mess. And so if I do it again next semester, then I will probably think about how to phrase it so that students understand it's an optional and not a required thing. But no, not on the final this time. Okay, so 2 questions on ethical systems, 7 and 8, 9 on fallacies, 3 valid, invalid, sound argument, recognizing them. Form of the argument, is it affirming the consequent, denying the antecedent, modus tollens, modus ponens. There might be a couple of those. Truth tables, 2-ish questions on truth tables. Question on Python, question on Scratch. And then NOMA is something we sort of briefly touched on last time, so I kind of want to go over that. So the conflict thesis, also known as the Draper-White thesis, is the notion that science and religion are in conflict, right? And historians mostly, just say this is kind of nonsense. Like, there are times when science and religion have come into conflict. In modern times, like stem cells would be like an example of that. But by and large, there's not this like centuries old war between science and religion. There's just not. And the resolution for that that is widely but not universally accepted is called NOMA, non-overlapping Magisteria. It was proposed by Stephen Jay Gould. He visited the Vatican back in the day, and he was ready to fight. He was ready to like defend himself against these religious zealots, in the Vatican. And what he found was that the people in the Vatican were actually, they had, no issues with evolution. Like, the Pope basically had issued a bull in the 1950s saying, there's nothing wrong with, believing in evolution as a Catholic. Just remember that we're all, beloved children of God, that kind of thing. And so Stephen Jay Gould went, like, did not expect that one coming, because especially in America, evolution's a fraught issue. And so he wrote a paper called NOMA, People Compromising Impossible. Yeah, he was just like, and he was like, yeah, they asked good questions and we're interested. I didn't expect that. And so he wrote a paper called NOMA, which basically says that science has magisteria, it has authority over topics of science, and religion has authority over topics of religion. And we get into trouble when people try to cross the stream, so to speak, cross the magisteria. For example, science is unable to say what you should do. It's the is-ought divide that we talked about earlier in the semester. Science is great at telling you what is. It's not very good at telling you what you should do. So, for example, stay in your own lane, is a great way of putting it. So, for example, science can tell you if a COVID vaccine is effective or not, right? And a lot of people get confused, like, when new research comes out and changes old research or clarifies or something, like, the science was wrong. Well, no, that's just how science works, right? Like you do papers and the new research comes out and the consensus will move, especially in a fast moving new area like COVID-19. Like you're in an epidemic and pandemic and things will adjust. But it can't tell you, science can't tell you if you should mandate vaccines for people, for example. Science can just tell you, here is the effectiveness of a vaccine. Here's what we know. Cannot tell you, should you mandate vaccines to people? Is it ethically okay to tell people they have to get vaccinated or quit, right? That is not a question science can answer. I mean, what experiment would you do? What reagent would you add to a test tube to find out if it's ethical? Like, you can't answer that question. It's just not something science can do. And that's something that like philosophy or like religion can do. And so the is-ought divide is David Hume. And basically science is great at saying what is. It is basically incapable of saying what you should do, what you ought to do. And then vice versa, religion will say you should do this, you shouldn't do this, but it should not be used to answer questions of science. Like, what happens if you, mix an acid and a base together? Like, that you should just go into the lab and do it, and not rely on authority for that. So, they can inform each other, like what rules should science follow to be ethical. Like they can inform each other, but basically they're kind of like in their own domains and they don't overlap. So this is called NOMA. And it's, like I said, it's not universally adopted, but it's pretty widely adopted. And so that's something I wanted to talk about today because we touched on it really briefly last time in class. So let's give some participation points to people here. Check the first option for all that can go wrong. That's fine. Okay, so philosophy of mind. It's like the difference between dualism, materialism, idealism, panpsychism. 3 questions on set theory, give or take. 2 questions on the replication crisis, give or take. Basically, if you go through the presentations, and like I said, if any of them are not published on Canvas, I'll make sure they're all visible to you guys. You just go into the files section and just scroll through this. I think they're all, they're all visible. They're all visible. So you just go through here and get a copy of all those. There's probably at least one question on each of these lectures. You might not get a question because, again, they're randomized. I created a pool that it's going to be drawing from. But to prep for it, you should probably at least have an idea of like what each of the different topics, like the big idea, the big think for each one of those things. What is algorithmic bias? Are computers fair to people? Well, they can be, but they also can't be. Because it just kind of depends how they're programmed, right? So that is the topics for the final. Let's go ahead and do a sample final together and see where you guys are at and what you need to work on. So this is a practice exam. You do not have to take it. All my sample exams say that because students will see the sample final pop up in their feed. And they're like, oh, I have to take it. No, you don't have to take it. It's optional. Okay. Can we expect some questions asked more than others? Yeah, that's why I gave you the relative weighting here, of the different things. So definitely focus on fallacies, valid, invalid sound, and set theory. Those are probably the most common. And then just, the presentations. There's a fairly wide variety of those, but you're probably not going to get more than one question on fractals or something like that. Okay, so what form of argument is this? If people say, bless the queen a lot, then the queen will live a long time. The queen lived a long time. Therefore, people said, bless the queen. Wow, when did she die, actually? Queen Elizabeth II. She lived a long time. She lived almost 100 years. Yeah. So she died in September of last year. Yeah. So this is after the Queen died. Okay. Is the final weighted? The final is worth 10% of your grade. So other than that, I don't know what you mean by weighted. It is 10% of your grade. So, affirming the consequent. That is correct. If X, then Y. Y is true, therefore X is true, is affirming the consequent fallacy. Form of argument is this. If you are a Spice Girl, then you want to have fun. It's true, by the way, as far as I can tell. They have assured me that they want to have fun. However, you do not want to have fun. You are clearly then not a Spice Girl. If we are almost near to an A, there is no curving in this class, like at all. I do not curve grades. If everybody gets an A, everybody gets an A. It's just how it is. It's open notes, for these kinds of things, like affirming the consequent, denying the antecedent. I highly recommend you get a 4 note cards and just write if X then Y, X therefore Y, modus ponens. If X then Y, not Y, therefore not X, modus tollens. Like just have those things just sitting out, during the final. You can hold it up to the screen. You're like, okay, if you're a Spice Girls X, you want to have fun is Y. You don't want to have fun is not Y. Therefore, you're not a Spice Girls, not X. This is modus tollens. This is not denying the antecedent. Denying the antecedent would be you are not a Spice Girl. So the antecedent is the first part of an implication. The consequent is the second part. So modus tollens is a valid argument form. If you are a Spice Girl, if X, then Y, not Y, therefore not X, is modus tollens. It is valid. Okay. All right. So what form of argument is this? If you drive a motorcycle, then you wear a helmet. If X, then Y. You are not driving a motorcycle, not X, therefore not Y. So if X, then Y, not X, therefore not Y. Which form of argument is that? This is, in fact, denying the antecedent. The antecedent is the first part, and we are denying it. You are not driving a motorcycle. So, after all, if you drive a motorcycle or a helmet, people can wear a helmet while in a car, right? Like race car drivers will wear helmets, even inside of a car. So, participation for you guys on that one. All right. This is actually from a meme that a Buddhist friend of mine sent me. If you are a Nirvana fan, see my mouse is drifting. That's interesting. I'm not touching my mouse right now. Hands moving on the screen. If you are a Nirvana fan, then you can name 3 steps on Noble Siddhartha's path to enlightenment. However, you cannot name 3 steps on Noble Siddhartha's path to enlightenment. Therefore, you are not a Nirvana fan. So this is a joke, right? Like this is an equivocation fallacy. Equivocation fallacies are often jokes, right? It's also probably no true Scotsman, but we're not asking that question. We're asking what form of argument this is. If X, then Y, not Y, therefore not X, is MT. Very good. Is this argument valid, invalid, or sound? Premise 1. And there's, like I said, there's going to be like 2 or 3 of these for you guys. Is this argument valid, invalid, or sound? All squares are 2-dimensional polygons with 4 equal sides and 90-degree angles between them. Premise 2. You are not a 2-dimensional polygon with 4 equal sides and 90-degree angles between them. C. You're not a square. Is this valid, but not sound? Is it valid and sound, aka sound? Or is it invalid? This is, in fact, sound, yeah. The previous class, a lot of people said valid, and I'm like, okay, well, which one of these premises is wrong? Premise 1 or premise 2? And they're like, I guess it's sound. Yep. Is this argument valid, but not sound, invalid, or sound? Premise 1, all dogs are mammals. Premise 2, all humans are dogs. Conclusion. All humans are mammals. All X are Y. All W are X. Therefore, all W are Y. This is in fact valid, but not sound. Good. All right. And the reason for that is, of course, because humans are not dogs. Now, some people might say, he's a total dog. But like I said, in this class, I'm not interested in that kind of like hair splitting. All dogs are hells. What about a robot dog? Yeah, again, I'm not. Yeah, this is a true premise. This is a false premise. So it's valid. The logic does work though. Okay, so for a truth table, you go through and you fill them out a column at a time, not Z. So you've got a false in the Z here, so this becomes a true. X ended with Y, true ended with false is false, not Z. So you have a false here, so it's true here. True here becomes a false here. False ended with true is again false, not Z. False becomes true. And then for this one, X ended with Y, which is this column, ended with not Z, this column. So we're going to AND these two columns together. True ended with true is true. False ended with false is false. False ended with true is false. False ended with true is false. False ended with true is false. Okay, truth table's done. You're going to have 2 truth table questions on your final, probably. What fallacy is this? Tool is the greatest metal band of all time. Everyone says so. It's an appeal to popularity is the English name of it. The Latin name for appeal to popularity is ad pop. Very good. All right. What fallacy is this? I knew my girlfriend was lying to me when she said she wanted to have a picnic on the banks of the San Joaquin. I know all of the banks in Fresno, and none of them are on the river. So, banks of the shore of the San Joaquin, and all the banks, meaning financial institutions in Fresno. Very good. This is equivocation. Good. All right. What fallacy is this? People at GB3 are fit. So since you are a member of GB3, you must be fit too. So that which is true of the group must be true of the part. Fallacy of division. Very good. And if you note, I'm not giving participation for answering after I've given the answer. If you're wondering about that. So type fast. Type like the wind. You can always abbreviate. You can always be like FD if you want. If you want to type it quickly. Or you just type 3. That works too. Okay, what fallacy is this? I can't stand the party rock anthem by LMFAO. So all EDM, electronic dance music, sucks. Here's one example of something I hate. Therefore, all music in that genre is terrible. Very good. This is a false generalization. If you lick a metal pole in wintertime, then your tongue will stick. Oh, hey, well, I licked a metal pole in wintertime and my tongue didn't stick to it. Oh, yeah? But you're from San Diego. That doesn't count as real winter. Indeed, it is no true Scotsman. Okay. No true Scotsman is when, if somebody makes a claim and then somebody gives a counterexample and say, well, it's not a true, whatever. Okay. The news is fake because so much of the news is fake. Donald Trump as quoted by CNN. And because I'm going after Trump in one fallacy, I will be going after Biden in the next one. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. I do not take political sides in this class. So this is, in fact, circular reasoning. X is true because X is true. Okay. Next one up. When CNN fact-checked Biden, claiming he had been arrested in the civil rights movement when he hadn't, they were quick to excuse Biden by saying that Trump did it too. Unlike his uniquely dishonest predecessor, Biden, CNN, anytime CNN claims they're not a, biased media organization, it's like, all right. Unlike his uniquely dishonest predecessor, Biden did not bury fact-checkers in a daily avalanche of serial falseness. Biden has never come close to making a dozen false claims in a single speech, let alone 5 dozen false claims in one address as Trump's once did. Total number of... Okay, so he's saying, well, we can excuse Biden because Trump is worse. Okay. And this is CNN, and this is CNN. This is going after Trump. It's going after Biden. This is, in fact, tu quoque. So tu quoque is the no you fallacy. Exactly, Jaden. Hey, somebody else says it too, so it's not my fault. What fallacy is this? Jennifer Lopez, while collaborating with Mr. Worldwide Pitbull, told me that tonight I'm going to be it on the floor. Therefore, I'm going to be it on the floor tonight. So this is an appeal to authority fallacy, also known as what in Latin. Now, you should note that this Latin is not particularly common. You're not going to see most people use the Latin for this, but whatever. Do you guys remember what the Latin is for appeal to authority? Very good, Pimentel. It is ad verecundiam. Do you guys know what song that is? It's a bit old at this point. Yeah, no? Do you need me to play J-Lo and Pitbull for you? Might have to turn off the recording for a second so I don't get copyright struck. There we go. Sorry. Yeah, so what was I saying on the previous one? Yeah. So yeah, it was a very catchy song. So when Shakira tells us that hips don't lie, she is saying that the ligaments and tendons and joints between her torso and her legs are incapable of telling falsehoods. They are perfectly trustworthy joints and bones and ligaments and tendons. What kind of dramatic effect? Yeah. What fallacy is this? It's non sequitur, right? Because there's hips don't tell stories. Okay. So, set theory. So we've got here 3 different sets. One of pop singers, Lady Gaga, Britney Spears, Shakira, Rihanna. And if you're wondering why Diamonds is in there, because Rihanna has a song called Shine Bright Like a Diamond or something like that. And we got weapons here. We got spears, swords, clubs, and spades. And then we got suits for decks of playing cards, which includes hearts, clubs, spades, and diamonds. So what is the size of the intersection between pop and weapons? So what elements are both in the pop set and the weapon set, and how many of those are there? Because we got the vertical bars there. The vertical bars mean count how many elements are in that set. And you can see that the answer is, in fact, just spears are in both. So the answer is 1. Now moving on to the next question. It's going to be very similar to that one, except we're going to union the result with suits. So what is the size of the intersection of pop and weapons? This is, again, just spears. Unioned with suits. So we have spears, hearts, clubs, spades, and diamonds. That sounds to me like 5. All right, very good. What about the next one? Pop intersects suits. So pop intersects suits has both diamonds. Okay, so that's just diamonds. So if we have diamonds and we union this with weapons, diamonds unioned with weapons is going to be 5 also. It's going to be diamonds, spears, swords, clubs, and spades. Sounds 5 as well. What about this one? We're going to union all 3 of the sets together. So what you might have to get, I'll give you a moment to count. But remember, you cannot have the same element in the set twice. So you can't add diamonds to a set twice. You just skip a duplicate if you're trying to add it a second time. So how many elements are there? How many unique elements? Let's put it that way. When you're unioning things like this, when you're unionizing labor, seizing the means of production, how many unique elements are there across the 3 sets? 9. Good. Very good. I miscounted the first time in the 8 o'clock session. I put down 10 because I missed the fact that clubs appears in both. So we got spears, Gaga, Shakira, Rihanna, diamonds. Spears is a duplicate, so we don't count that. Swords is 6, clubs is 7, spades is 8, hearts is 9. That's a duplicate, that's a duplicate, that's a duplicate. So it's a total of 9. Okay. You couldn't count. Yeah. I counted 10 because I missed spades being a duplicate. It does happen to all of us. Okay, the universe is all integers, Z. In other words, all integers. And so a lot of the set theory questions that I put into the pool involves complement. And complement is the thing that gets most students when it comes to set theory questions in this class. Complement means not in the set. So B complement, it looks like an exponent. It's not exponent. That means not in B. So what elements, what integers are in A? That's the first part here. What elements here are in A but are not in B? And then with the vertical slash, we're going to count how many of those there are. So which elements of A are not in B? Three. Very good. 1, 7, and 10. There are 3 elements that are in A that are not in B. 6 is in B, so it doesn't count. Yeah, 1, 7, and 10. Very good. So that is, and then you count, right? Because we got the vertical slashes there. There are 3 elements that are in A that are not in B. So the answer is 3. All right, now we got a meme or webcomic, XKCD, right here. Another huge study found that there is no evidence that cell phones cause cancer. What is the WHO thinking? Well, I think they just got it backwards, huh? We'll take a look. If you look at the cancer incidence, which has been rising, cancer incidence rose, and then cell phone use skyrocketed after that. So they're concluding that cancer causes cell phones. There you go. It's the only possible explanation for the data. Yes, very good. This is correlation is causation fallacy. You'll hear people say correlation is not causation. That's true. Correlation is causation is fallacious. Okay, what about this one? If I tell the truth about everything, I will offend people. Therefore, if I offend people, I must be telling the truth. Which fallacy is this? If I tell the truth about everything, I will offend people. Therefore, if I offend people, I must be telling the truth. Which fallacy is this? If X, then Y. Y is true, therefore X is true. We did several of these earlier in the final. If X, then Y. Y, therefore X. What is the form of that? You are affirming the consequent. Yeah, good. That is affirming the consequent fallacy. And I've actually seen people reason this way. Well, since people are getting upset, I must be telling the truth. No, you can just be a jerk. That is a possibility. Okay, so like I said, there's one question on Python, one question on Scratch. Scratch, if you want a program to run the fastest, you have to do what? You might remember this from the fractals assignment. Fractals will take forever to draw unless you put on turbo mode. Turbo mode is put on by shift-clicking the green flag. Very good. So, when a program is trained on people with lighter skin and it fails to recognize the faces of people with darker skin, this is an example of what? Yeah, algorithmic bias. So, even though computers are sort of like value neutral, they're just processing symbols. They don't know anything. If the people who write the program don't think things through and deliberately or unintentionally create bias. For example, here is the database used to train people at my college, UC San Diego. Let's see here. View extra large icons. So these are the pictures of people they used to train people at UC San Diego. So you can see there's like an Indian guy there. Yeah, they're predominantly white and Asian. Yeah. The faces database for my institution. So the reproducibility crisis was kicked off with a paper that tried reproducing the top 100 papers in what field? Which field was the original source of controversy for the reproduction crisis, the reproducibility crisis? You guys remember? The APA responded, well, other fields have troubles too. Just too quoque, right? Anyone remember what field that was in? Psychology. Very good. The APA does more than just create a guide for doing citations. It's true story. So, one of the major causes of the reproducibility crisis is what? And there are two questions on the reproducibility crisis, the reproduction crisis, the replicability crisis. There's 4 different names for it. What is one of the major causes of it? There's several, but only one of these is correct. The pressure that people put onto tenure. Yeah, exactly. So they force new professors to just shovel out papers left and right, or they don't get tenure. And sucks to you. The fact that computers only process symbols and don't understand semantics, i.e. meaning, is a core part of which argument against computers being conscious. So this is an argument by Searle. We talked about it last class, where basically computers just process a symbol. They have no concept of what any of the symbols mean. They just take a symbol, and a symbol is just ones and zeros. It's not even looking at the symbol. It's just like 1100 compare against 00110011. It's like true. Okay, then do this 11000. Like it has no concept of any meaning or anything. So this is in fact the Chinese room argument, which came out in 1980 or so by Searle, who's a professor emeritus at Berkeley. I believe that even after my material soul dies, my material body dies, my immaterial soul will go on to heaven, is a statement made by a subscriber of which theory of mind? So materialism is the notion that everything is material. Idealism is the notion that everything is mind. Panpsychism is the notion that everything is a mind-matter hybrid. And dualism is the notion there's two different kinds of things, or two different varieties of dualism. There's substance dualism and property dualism, but basically there's kind of like two different kinds of things. There's the kind of stuff you can touch, and then there's like, the subjective experience inside of your head. So which one of these philosophies has that person subscribed to? It is in fact dualism. Yeah. So dualism, it's very easy to make a claim like this because your body can die, but your mind is not equivalent to your body, and therefore there's no reason to assume that your mind will die when your body does. And materialists would say, yeah, but I mean, if you give somebody a brain tumor or something, it changes their mind, and so clearly the mind is made by the brain, and so if the brain dies, there's no more mind. And, that's why philosophy is fun. Because there's really good arguments, you can make a very good argument that your mind is not reducible to your brain, or you can make an argument that the laws of physics can't explain how qualia could exist. Like, there's just nothing in the standard model that allows for subjective experience. It's all objective. So there's a lot of, and panpsychism has a lot of good arguments for it too, Idealism has a lot of good arguments. Like, there's great arguments for all of them, and that's what makes philosophy so interesting. Okay, so one of the interesting things about fractals is the self-similarity principle. So the self-similarity principle means that a small version of it looks like the big version of it. So like a pebble looks like a rock, looks like a mountain, kind of. True. Very good. Fractals are almost defined by being self-similar. There's a couple other things, like they have a non-integer dimension, which is really weird. Fractals are neat. I don't know how practical they are, but they're neat. Okay, according to Noam Chomsky, we're out of time. The media will tend not to run negative stories about their advertisers and their sources. I was just watching a Korean drama called The Queen Maker, where she gets mad at a TV station, so she pulls her ads from it's basically Samsung, but it's not Samsung. So they pull their ads from the TV station to punish them. When people eliminate qualifiers from an online argument, that's straw man. Hey, I think we should cut down a few trees in the national parks to reduce fire risk. Why do you want to kill all of the trees in the national park? Straw man. It's also black and white thinking, black and white fallacy. What ethical system is this person using? Piracy is okay because it will yield more benefit for the people than the pain it inflicts. That's clearly a utilitarian argument right there. What system of truth is this person using? The term begins, apply to a dust or something is fine. When a majority of people agree. Okay, so that is going to be consensus theory of truth. Recent Twitter acquisition, Elon Musk. So basically, Twitter suspended the account of a newspaper. That is corporate censorship, not government censorship, corporate censorship, when a tech company censors people. I once bought a bottle of Pinot water. They claim that water is vibrated into pentagonal. Yeah, that's pseudoscience, clearly. It's complete nonsense. Remember, the dividing line between science and pseudoscience is commonly held to be the falsification criteria, which is Popper's philosophy. Again, it's not universal, but there's widespread agreement that falsifiability is what separates science from pseudoscience. Like, even though you could look at the water, penta water, under a microscope, and it's not in a pentagonal shape, the defenders will say, well, it's got water memory, and it tastes so good. Yeah, you can't convince them. You can't falsify a theory. It's not science, it's pseudoscience. There's more evidence for something than against it is abductive reasoning. And then finally, are you invited to stay on the class Discord? You're welcome. Are you welcome? Not just invited. You're encouraged and welcomed to stay on the class Discord, even after the class is over. What do you guys think? And hang out with a bunch of interesting and sometimes weird people as a result. Hopefully. Yes, absolutely. You are all not just welcome, you are encouraged to stay here on Discord and post memes and, submit news stories and AI artwork and chat with people. So you all. I have students that have been on here for years, and graduated years ago, and I love seeing them talk. Like I love seeing what they're up to and stuff like that. So that is most definitely true. So let's see how we did on the final. Kind of rushed through it a little bit. Perfect score. Look at that. I should be a professor or something. Okay, so like I said, on Friday, there is no lecture here. I will be here. It'll be like office hours, basically. So it's called consultation days. If you want me to look over your capstone essay, I can read that over. If you have any questions for the final, feel free to be here. But otherwise, don't feel like you have to be here. You can just not, if you want. That's fine too. It's not a class. So, rigged. Yeah, I mean, it helps when you write the test. That's for sure. I used to have a professor that drive me crazy. He's like, well, when I took the final, it took me 15 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, because you know the answers already, bro. Like, it was a proofs class, and we had to write these like long proofs. And it's like, yeah, it's really easy to solve a proof when you know the strategy and you know the steps you have to take. You just have to write it. You don't have to think about it. My lord, dude. He's like, well, it took me 15 minutes. You should be able to do it in an hour. I'm like, I have to think about it for at least half an hour. And then, I have to write it. I don't know. It drives me crazy when professors do that. So that's why I'm giving you guys 3 hours on this test. The average, like not my time, but the average time for students is 45 minutes. And that's on like a longer final. Your final is actually going to be shorter than usual because I created a pool of questions. And it's going to be pulling questions from the pool. So I got bored after a while, so I stopped. So I hope you guys don't mind. You only have to do 32 questions instead of 42. I don't think I'm going to get any complaints on that, though. Exam was 15 pages long, but it was 4 hours. But I could solve it in an hour or two. Yeah. Yeah. It's really easy when you write it. I'll tell you. I mean, to be fair, writing finals is not easy. Like, it actually does take a while. I was up late last night putting together the 60 or so questions that actually went into it. But I'd much rather write a final than take a final. I can tell you that much. Most definitely. Okay. So now I wanted to say thank you all. You guys have been an absolutely wonderful class. You are great, great people. So I wish you all the best in life. Good luck in the final. And maybe I'll see some of you on consultation days. But if not, peace out. I'll see you on the flip side.